thinking about the private sector, you spend a lot of time, I'm sure, with leaders of major pension funds, institutional investors of all kinds. Yeah. Do they understand what's happening with the MDBs? Does it connect with them?
My honest answer is no.
That's what I've been hearing as well.
Not because they're too stupid, because we are not able to speak their language. And I said in several meetings today and in conferences and in speeches, these people whose money we want and whose trust we want to achieve in order to entice them to finance our projects, they must be sure that we understand their language. And I think, as an investment bank that does most of its work in industrialized countries in Europe, we are more used to that. But if you have an exclusively development policy background, then you might overlook that sometimes and even have some skepticism vis-à-vis those who come from the private sector. Sure. And they're looking for a possibility to park their money with the perspective of getting the money back with an interest rate. So this is nothing that is obscene. This is part of our economic system. We should not allow people to exploit development situations, but on the other hand, we should allow them to get the necessary return on investment, which is necessary in order to get them into the boat. That does not include that you simply overlook that many development projects are riskier than projects that you do plain vanilla in developed countries. And there it is completely legitimized to say, okay, we as the state or the donating countries are ready to absorb a first part of a potential loss. So make it easier for the investors to go higher into risk in very uncertain circumstances. That is something that one can do. And we are very experienced in that because that's the way we restarted the investment locomotive in Europe.
People will say, for example, well, if we make the projects appeal to the private sector, will they still have a development outcome? Or will we start to steer our development banks so far to private sector interests that, I don't know, maybe we'll end up doing lots of big infrastructure projects that benefit elites or that benefit those who can pay but aren't designed to reach the poorest of the poor. How have you tried to navigate that? What do you think?
Well, that's a serious thing, but we are in an institution which is definitely a bank because it borrows and lends on. But however, we are an institution that is policy driven. Our objectives are being set by the European Council, by the 28 member states of the European Union who own us, and to tell us quite clearly, we want to focus more on climate change mitigation and adaptation. We want to do more on energy efficiency. We want to do more on the fostering of international cooperation, multilateralism in particular. So we have to observe these objectives, but still be professional in the selection of the projects. We must not allow wishful thinking in developed projects because that is sometimes the case. And afterwards you find out that you have produced basically an implicit increase in state debt for countries that you want to do something good for. But we have been the inventors and the avant-garde on green bonds 10 years ago. We celebrated that this year. I recognize the World Bank followed quickly afterwards. We are still the biggest issue of green bonds nowadays, and this is an extremely important instrument. And I am completely sure that something similar can be set up for ocean-related bonds, like blue bonds. We are working on this as well. And if you take a couple of other SDGs in the health system, for instance, or in gender questions, I think there is a business case and B, also a corporate social responsibility case to be made in order to attract money from the private sector. That still does not allow you to finance bad projects. This is the key thing.
Right.
At least as far as the European Union is concerned, the migration crisis has had one positive impact, and it's a shame that it took the migration crisis to bring this about. The attitude towards development, the attitude towards the recognition of the fact that we must solve problems in the countries of origin of these refugees, that has risen. And so people who have never been interested in development policy are all of a sudden very much of the opinion that the more we help those countries to develop economic strategies that give a perspective for the future of these people there, the better it is for ourselves.